My name is Abigail Clayton, and I was in a research group with Lauren Allen, Nicole Miller, and Matthew Messer, and we talked about and researched Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through what that is and why it's important for us to understand. Starting off, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is an educational psychology theory. What his purpose behind it was assessing specifically students' motivations, or what gives them the motivation to achieve what he calls self-actualization, which I'll explain what that is. He put it in sort of a pyramid. He put this idea that there are needs that have to be met in a ranging how important it is to the person at the bottom, and every level has to be reached before at the top reaching self-actualization. So at the very bottom is physiological and safety needs. Those are the very bottom, the base of the pyramid. Physiological needs are defined as food, water, sleep, and clothing. Safety needs are defined as health, family, resources, and shelter. So essentially, these are needs that every person has that needs to be met. Moving on to the next part of it is love and belonging and esteem. That's sort of the next part of the pyramid. Love and belonging is defined as friendship, family, and other relationships, so the need to be in community. And then esteem is defined as self-esteem, confidence, or achievement. And this is the need to have self-efficacy, pretty much. An achievement can be for a student to have good grades, or achievement can be for someone who has a job, for their hard work to be reflected in where they are in the position of their job. Once all those needs are met, physiological, safety, love and belonging, and esteem, at the top is what Maslow calls self-actualization. Once a person goes through all those levels, they will reach self-actualization, which is defined as the desire to be everything that one is capable of becoming. And so the motivational theory behind that is that if you do not have physiological and safety needs met, then your motivation is to fulfill that. Once those are fulfilled, then the desire is to have the need of love and belonging and esteem met. Once that is reached, then you can go on to self-actualization, or the desire to become what you are capable of becoming as a person. So that's what the theory is. Breaking it down a little bit, it's split up into, to understand it better, deficiency and growth needs. Deficiency needs are physiological needs and safety needs, whereas the growth needs are defined as self and esteem and love and belonging needs. And then at the very top of that is self-actualization. So the difference between deficiency and growth needs. Deficiency needs, these once are met, the need to satisfy them diminishes. So sort of to explain that, for example, if you've ever sat in class and your stomach was growling or you were tired, those needs need to be seen to before you can focus on understanding the material and exploring and gaining knowledge, because they're needs that our body has to survive. On the other hand, if you sat in class and you weren't hungry or you had enough sleep the night before, it's much easier to take notes and to understand what's being taught. So that's the idea of deficiency needs. Once those needs are met, then you can focus. Then you can move on to growth needs, which is important to note about deficiency needs. In general, growth needs cannot be seen to until deficiency needs are met. So as a teacher in a classroom, that's important to understand. And then growth needs, on the other hand, they are needs that will never be fully met. An example of that is if you've ever read a good book, once you've read a chapter of that book, the need to finish that book or read other books, it's not ever satisfied. It won't ever be fully met, that need, because you want to continue on. Sometimes once you read a good book, you want to read another good book. And so it could even grow. And so there's this idea that growth needs will never be fully met. And then once reaching what Maslow defines as self-actualization, an important thing to note is that this domain is specific to the person. So for example, self-actualization for a mother could be raising their child to be a healthy individual, someone who's a good member of society, that loves their mother, and that has grown into the person that they raised them to be. So self-actualization could be a mother doing that to the best of their ability. It could be for someone who is a business person, or a nurse, or an accountant. It could be, self-actualization could be their achievement reflected in how much work they have put into their job. And so self-actualization is dependent on the person. I included a quote by Maslow that I thought was really interesting, that was really good. It says, "It is quite true that man lives by bread alone when there is no bread. But what happens to man's desire when there's plenty of bread and when his belly is chronically filled?" And that's just sort of the idea behind Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is that once all these specific needs are met, of safety and physiological needs, and then the need to have self-efficacy and to achieve, once those are met, then a person can become what they were meant to become, as he puts it. Going on to the benefit that it has for us today and the validity of it in our present day, I researched a really interesting study called the NSAS pilot study. It was the first study of its kind done to assess the 5 domains of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it researched high school age students ranging from 14 to 19, those were the ages, in a rural school in Hamilton County, Tennessee. And for research purposes, the students varied in gender, ethnicity, and background. The significance of the development of the NSAS is that it is the first scale of its kind that's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it was designed to measure the satisfaction of needs of high school students. The results are based on the students' self-reporting, which allows for an understanding of students' perceived satisfaction of needs. Essentially, this study was meant to show, do students actually fit into Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Interestingly, their null hypothesis, what they thought would come to the study, is that these 5 domains would not affect students' GPA, or that student-specific needs has no relationship to their academic achievement. At the end, the conclusion of that study was that the hypothesis was rejected, that there is a relationship between a student, how high they rate him or herself on the NSAS, meaning how high their needs were met, the higher the probability the student had of succeeding academically. So we can see, even in a present day, how it's important for needs to be met before achievement, specifically in a student, can be achieved. So that's just an overview of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.